Hello, welcome to the Music in Worship class. Today we will study chapter 5, the simple history of music in worship. Studying the history of music in worship is useful for evaluating our music in worship now and knowing the way forward in future. So let's dive in now. Number 1, the music in worship of early medieval times. Middle Ages, 5th century to 15th century is a history about 1000 years in Europe, and it is also the history of the church. However, it is hard to apply to Oriental history. First, before 313, they worshipped in catacombs because of the persecution of Rome. They used Greek for the worship, and they could neither sing loudly nor play instruments. Second, in 313, Christianity was liberated by the Edict of Milan of Constantinus I. Though they were able to sing praise with loud music, the still and quiet music became a tradition. So, church music had to be quiet and beautiful rather than great and loud. And third, after 313, they worshipped in Latin of Rome, and the congregational hymn was disappeared because praise was sung by professional choir only, and the congregation was amateurs. The following two kinds of music became praise in worship, and they were used for 1000 years. Ambrosian chant. From the late 4th century, Bishop of Milan, Saint Ambrosius, collected the scattered chants in everywhere. And second praise in worship was Gregorian chant. From the late 6th century, Pope Gregorius collected it. It became sacred liturgic music. So even now, some people insist on using only hymns in worship. Their claim is actually wrong. Like them, the medieval church allowed the above two chants only for their praise in worship. So think about it. What if we still have to sing only the chants or hymns? So let's move on to number 2, the music in worship after the Reformation. First, Martin Luther. The reformer Martin Luther used choral as their congregational hymn. The choral was the praise songs that collected by Luther, and he composed 39 songs of choral. He tried to praise God with beautiful and wonderful music, and he reformed the Bible and the hymns from Latin into German. The second, John Calvin. He was just a theologian who misunderstood about music in worship. He forbade to use hymn, to use choir and instruments in church worship. And he allowed to sing only his psalter in a cappella unison. So Geneva Psalter is the book of Psalms in French with a simple melody that John Calvin made it in Geneva. The third, Ulrich Zwingli. Although he was a skillful musician, but he also forbade the congregational hymn and organ and all instruments in church, and also composing hymn. The Bible commands us to praise God raising our voice and playing instruments. Then why did the great theologians like John Calvin and Zwingli prevent people from using great music? The last one, John and Charles Wesley, they are brothers. The founder of Methodist Church, Wesley brothers, sang the preaching and preached the songs in revival worship. Older brother John was a preacher, and the younger brother Charles composed a total 6,500 great hymns lyric. Even now, he is a very important person in the history of church music. Now let's move on to number 3, the music in worship of contemporary church. First, generational conflict. So as we learned from the history of worship music, people still emphasize their own thoughts and experience more than the Bible. Some people despise the CCM and gospel, and also some young Christians look down and disregard him. Second, use of various instruments. In instrumental music, orchestra, various acoustic and electronic musical instruments appeared. Only 100 years ago and before, most of praise music were all about vocal and simple instruments. The third, I want to say about problematic worship music. So there are some music with problem, so we should be careful to use it. So the first problematic worship music is biblical problematic lyric. Some music has biblical problems because the composers compose Christian music with a lack of biblical base and theological knowledge. And second, the misusing worship music. The music itself has no problem, but some of Christians abuse or misuse it. For example, they praise for grace and blessings, and they seek gorgeous exterior, and also they show off their talent and take pride. They sing habitually and meaninglessly. Those are incorrect use. Before we finish, I want to say about setting up the instruments and singers on the stage in our worship. The setting of the stage is from the secular music performance culture. Actually, it is okay if it is a Christian concert, but in worship. Because musicians, not God, can be focused and glorified. We should always try to glorify only God, right? How can we worship and praise God while minimizing such a risk? We have to think and find a way in order to make it right and improve our situation. Thank you for listening. We studied chapter 5 today. Next time, we will study chapter 6, church year and season. May God bless you.